But I'm Chef Jessica. If you didn't hear, Chef Kenna is here with me as well. And essentially, we're covering math foundations, fractions, decimals, percents. So let me share my screen with you. And at some point, a few different times, I will open it up for questions, but feel free to throw your question in the chat. If you have it, Chef Kenna can definitely try to help answer. And throw your answers in the chat too. Make sure we are all on the same page and knowing what's going on. I'm just going to touch real quickly on rounding, which is what we covered last week. Basically, when you're rounding, you're looking to the digit to the right of the number you're trying to determine if we're rounding or not. And you 4 and lower, the nice numbers, you stay the same. 5 and above, the mean or bossy numbers boss that other number around, and you have to make it change, so that has to move up. Basic rounding principles are really important. You will see them quite often. And another big thing is just knowing your places of where each digit is. So knowing your hundreds, your tens, your ones, your tenths, your hundreds, your thousands. You can't round to the nearest hundredth if you don't know which spot that is. So making sure you know which area is what. When you're talking money, that's usually the hundredths, rounding to the nearest cent. So you know that as well. Your whole number, anything to the left of this decimal, anything to the right is a partial of a whole. Just kind of briefly covering that. And I'm going to jump ahead because this is all the stuff we covered last week. Drop numbers, I guess I'm going to touch on that because that's super important. When you're doing serving sizes and portions, when you get a little further into the program, you do not round. That is the only time rounding does not apply. You drop anything to the right of that decimal because you cannot have a partial serving or part of a portion. All right, so I just write this down, take a picture of this. This is the bulk of what we're doing today. So this you will want to know, need to know information. Getting your fraction to a decimal is basically just division. You take that top number and you divide it by that bottom number. So when you see, like the example we have here, 2/5, think of that slash and that fraction as a divide sign. So you would take that 2 and you would divide it by your 5. Now, if you have a calculator in front of you, use your calculator. That is what it's there for, whether it's on your computer or on your phone. Grab a calculator and throw it in there because it will show you that 2 divided by 5 equals a decimal. So anything you need to know decimal-wise or part of it, when you see a fraction, that is just a partial of a whole number. So we're looking for that decimal. You have to find the decimal before you can find the percentage, always. So that's kind of your next step. Once you get that decimal to get a percentage, you can do 2 different things. They're the exact same thing, whichever makes most sense to you, do that one. The first, you can move it 2 spots over to the right, that decimal itself. So going with our example, we have 0.4. If you move that decimal 2 spots over, you would get 40. So it'd be 40%. Or you can multiply by 100. I personally like the multiply by 100 one, only because you're already putting it in your calculator. You already have that decimal, and then it just gives you the number you're looking for. And if you have numerous numbers after that decimal, it'll be easier to, at least to me, it's easier. But they're the exact same. I am going to pause it here real quick and see, do we have any questions about that?
Don't see any so far. So looking good. Let's rock and roll.
Awesome. Okay, because essentially the rest of this, we're going to kind of just work through some problems and examples of this. That is the bulk of the principle today's lesson is to learn. But if you struggle with it, don't worry, because we will get you there and it will make a lot more sense. So, and I guess something just important to note with all math stuff going forward in this program, read the question, always read the question over and over again until you understand it completely. Even go back after you think you know the answer. Just because sometimes, like if The questions in front of us, we have, what is this as a decimal? You're going to want to be answering these questions as a decimal, as a point something. If you answer this as a percentage, you're going to get the question wrong. So always make sure you're answering whatever they're asking of you. So let's work through a couple of these. What is 1/8 as a decimal? Feel free to shout it out, throw your answer in the chat, whatever, or just do it in your calculator. But you'd basically take that 1 and divide it by the 8. I think I heard the right answer.
0.8. 0.125.
Perfect. Yeah, I heard quite a few of the right answers on that one. 0.25. So let's try the next one. What is 3/4 as a decimal? I'm not going to show you. What would you do?
We've got a couple in the chat of 0.75.
0.75, you are right. I didn't move it over enough. It is 0.75. So those who are curious how we got there, take your 3 and you divide it by your 4. And we get 0.75, which is 3/4 of a whole. I'm gonna cover those guys back up. Let's try a couple more problems. What is 1 2/3 as a decimal? Trying to throw you off here. See if anyone catches on. It's tricky, but it's not tricky. It could be tricky. If you overthink it, it could be tricky. And I tend to overthink everything, so maybe it's only tricky to me. So to kind of walk you through it, are we seeing any answers in the chat yet?
None in the chat, so let's check it out.
All right. So essentially when you see this number, you want to work with this fraction. You know your 1 is a whole number. It's 1 2/3. So we're looking at this 2/3 basically. So you would do your 2 divided by 3. Oops, I'm really bad with the calculator on a computer, just an FYI. And we get our 0.666667. And that 1 just stays there. So it'd be 1.666667. Because you just add that to it. The 1 is the whole number, basically. I did that backwards and that's going to bother me, but you guys get the gist there. So anytime you see a whole number, just know that whole number will still be to the left of the decimal. That fraction is to the right of the decimal because that is the partial number. Well, let's try this next one. What is 7/8 as a decimal?
0.875.
Yeah, exactly. I heard somebody, thank you. 0.875. Nice job. That all making some sense. Let's try some of these. What is 0.25 as a percent? Feel free to shout it out, throw it in the chat.
25%.
Yeah, 25%. Perfect. So again, you can take that decimal and move it 2 spots over to the right to equal 25. Or you can take your 0.25, and you can times it by 100. Same thing. Let's try the next one. What is 0.7 as a percent?
70%.
Yeah, nice job. 70%, same thing. You guys are making sense of this. This is again, if you want to take a picture of this, this is great info to have. These are a lot of just common conversions you will be doing in culinary. This is a lot, again, when you're getting into like recipes and things like a 1/4 cup, 1/4 of a gallon, a 1/2 gallon, 1/2 pound, whatever have you. These are common ones to just know. The more you use them, the more you'll understand them. And the more you're just going to be able to memorize them. And you won't even have to think about it. You just know that when you see a 1/4, that's 25%. You just know it. So the more you use these, I'm sure you'll get there at some point if you're already not, maybe. I don't know where you're all at, but you'll be there at some point, I promise. So again, if you want to write this down, take a picture. I will pause here for anyone doing that. Does anyone have any questions right now about anything? About this or about rounding? Because I know we covered rounding last week.
Looks like everyone's cool in the chat.
All right.
Good. Awesome.
All right. So I'm just going to go into some more awesome problems because why not? And what is the decimal of 1/10? Feel free to throw your answer in the chat, say it out loud. How might we get what that is as a decimal? Would you
All right.
possibly?
Vanessa says 0.1.
0.1.
Yeah, perfect.
And so does Apollo. Awesome.
So you take your 1 and you divide it by your 10, get to your 0.1. What decimal is 1/4?
0.25.
Yeah. Nice job. How about what percent is 0.5?
Five 5%. 60%.
I was going to say, I think I heard some right answers, some wrong. It would be 50%.
50%.
Yep. Because there would be a 0 at the end. Perfect. What decimal is 1/2?
I
don't want to know.
I was going to say,
0.5?
Vanessa was quick on the draw also, 0.5.
How would you convert a fraction to a percentage?
Uh-oh, she asked a question with an open-ended answer.
I know. Seeing if anyone's paying attention. Would you maybe divide that top number by that bottom number and then multiply it by 100? Maybe. I think you should.
Yes.
Yes, that's great. At least you're agreeing with me. How about this one? What decimal is 3/4?
.75.
Yeah, nice job. Perfect. How about what percent is 0.1? 0.10 to be exact.
10%.
Yeah. Nice job. How about what percent is 0.75?
75%.
Nice job. How do you convert a fraction to a decimal?
Divided by 100.
Divide the denominator by the numerator and multiply it by 100.
You would divide the top number by the bottom number. Right. Definitely. What decimal is 0.1 or is, I'm almost going to tell you the answer. What decimal is 1/3?
Vanessa was super quick in the chat at 0.33.
Definitely. Let's jump over to what I'm going to call advanced fractions. Bear with me. It's pretty much the same thing. They're just different numbers. And then we're going to round with it too. So you got a little bit wiggle room to work on some things. So what decimal is 1/9 rounded to the nearest hundredth? So again, you would take that top number, you would divide it by that bottom number, and then you would round to the nearest hundredth. So your 100th place, because I don't see the chat blinking at me yet. Your 100th place would be the second one. So you look at that one. You look to the number to the right of it, which is this third one. This is a terrible example because they're all ones. But anyway, that one basically means it stays the same. So it'd be 0.11 is your answer. If you got that, great. If not, I don't know. I guess if not, we'll figure out what you're doing wrong here, or feel free to raise your hand or give me a thumbs up or some reaction if you need help if you don't know that. I'm at the very end of it though, so let me get back to the beginning. There we go. What is 2/10 as a decimal?
Vanessa's quick on with 0.2.
Vanessa, you're doing great. I mean, I'm sure other people are doing great, but you're fast at typing it. And you have it right. How about what is 3/5 as a decimal? Again, you take that top number and you divide it by that bottom number every time. 0.6 might be your answer. Hope it is. What is 7/10 as a decimal rounded to the nearest hundredth? 7/9. I don't know if I said ninths or tenths. I can't remember, but it says ninth. So you take that 7 and you divide it by that 9. And we get this very long number of 7s. You look at that third 7, meaning you'd round up. So this 7 has to change to an 8 because these mean, and we'd get 0.78. Awesome. What is 9/16 as a decimal rounded to the nearest tenth? Here's a hint. Nearest tenth. That is like the biggest thing. I think every workshop, every tutor session I'm ever going to teach, cannot stress enough reading that question, because there is nothing more frustrating than having everything right, doing all that math right, understanding all the concepts, and then just answering in a decimal when it should have been an answer in a percentage or something as simple as that. It's the worst way, in my opinion, to lose points. Like, you know it all, but you didn't get credit for it. All right, what did we come up with?
We've got a couple answers in chat that all say 0.6.
You guys are right. Nice job. I didn't trick nobody on that. Well, maybe I did and you didn't answer. Again, say something, please, because we are here to help you. I want to make sure you all are understanding this. If you're silent, we don't know you need help. What is 3/8 as a decimal? Got our 3 divided by our 8.
0.375.
Yeah, nice job. 0.375. How about what is 0.4 as a percentage?
Click on the draw, we've got 40%.
Nice, perfect. What is 0.22 as a percentage?
All right, couple folks are on there with 22%.
Nice job, everybody. How about what is 0.39 as a percentage? Oops, skipped ahead.
39%.
39. Nice job. What is 0.525 as a percentage?
$52.5.
Yeah, nice job. How about what is 1.68 as a percentage?
Oh, boom, 168.
Didn't get anyone? Come on.
Oh man, not in the chat anyways. They're on it.
So this essentially, if you are wondering, or if you are sitting there thinking, how in the heck? You basically do the exact same thing. You can move that decimal 2 spots over, which basically leaves us with 168. Or you can take your 1.68, multiply it by 100, same principle, get 168. You can have percentages that are over 100%. With baker's math, if you're on the pastry side, you will definitely have percentages over 100%. When you get into the costing side of things, you almost never. So you kind of need to know both sides of it. Depending on what area you're looking at will depend on what you see more of, but same exact principles. What is 2/10 as a percentage? This is a two-parter. She didn't catch that yet. So you have to do both steps here. So you would take your 2 and you divide it by your 10. And we get 0.2. But we want to know our percentage because we're reading the full question. And we multiply that by 100. And 20% would be your answer. What is 3/5 as a percentage? Same thing, you got to do both parts here.
Ooh, 60%.
Nice job. That's exactly it. Your 3 divided by your 5 equals 0.6. Times it by 100 equals 60%. Well, we are just flying through these, or you guys just are super smart. I don't know, maybe both? Probably some of both. Definitely some of both. What is 7/10 as a percentage? Again, two-parter. Your 7 divided by your 10 would equal 0.7 times 100 equals 70%. What is 9/16 as a percentage? See, I'm pretty sure we already did this one somewhere in there, but you probably already forgot because I forgot.
56.25. People are just flying into that chat.
Yeah, perfect. That's exactly right. You guys are doing great.
Chef, before we go any further, can we do that step one more time? Hello, everybody. I'm sorry I'm late.
Hi, Erica. Thanks for joining us.
Late. I was looking at another Sunday and I was in there at 8 o'clock, but I'm like, something ain't right. So
You're
I just
good.
long day. Can we do that one more time? I'm sorry, everybody.
No, you're good. It was awful quiet without you. All right, so
Bad.
it's both. No, I'm just kidding. No, I love you talking. So we got the 9, and you divide that sign when you see a fraction is a divide symbol. So you would take your 9 and divide it by 16. And that gets us a decimal, 0.5625. And then you would take that and times it by 100. Or you can move that decimal 2 spaces over. And that gets us a percentage.
Mine's gave me 0.5625. So I don't know. So that is right. So, okay. 9 divided by 16 gave me, come on, don't do this. 9 divided by 16 equals, it gave me 0.26525. Correct.
Yeah. So then once you have this number, you take this decimal and you move it either 2 spaces to the right, or you can multiply by 100. It's the same thing, whichever one is better for you. And that gets your decimal to a percentage.
And it gave me 56.25, so we're rounding up.
Or not rounding at all, but yes.
Okay. So 56.25. Okay. All right.
Yep.
I'm ready. I'm sorry.
No, we're good. No worries. All right, so 4/16 as a percentage. So again, we got our 2 steps that we have to do. So you have to take your fraction, your top number, divide it by your bottom number. So you take your 4, divide it by your 16, which gets you a decimal, I believe if I am not losing my mind today, that would be 0.25. And then once we get our 0.25, to get it into a percentage, you move that decimal 2 spots over to the right, or you can multiply it by 100, and that gets us 25%. What is, whoa, skipped ahead. What is 1/8 as a decimal? So again, reading the question, because we were just kind of doing something else, I'm looking for this answer in a decimal now. So you would take that 1 divided by your 8, and that gets us, ooh, if I can type, 0.125 is the answer. Hope a bunch of people got that. What percentage is 7/8? So this is a two-parter asked in a different way. Tricky, I know.
87.5.
What was that answer? I heard somebody say something.
87.5.
Yeah, yep, you're right. So you got your 0.875 times it by 100 or move it 2 spots over, and we got 87.5%. What decimal is 1/9 rounded to the nearest hundredth? So again, what question is this asking? This is asking us what decimal. So our answer is going to be a decimal, and we're going to make sure we round to the nearest hundredth. So we got that 1 divided by 9. We already did this one. Got 0.11111, because that 1's there, stays the same. So your answer would be 0.11. But I'm going to stop it here. Does anyone have any questions about this, or how's everyone feeling about it? Got a good understanding? I know this is kind of some simpler stuff, but it's definitely one of those things, like, you're going to be using it with costing stuff. You're going to be using it with that baker's math a lot with those percentages. And it's just a good understanding. And you can't do a lot of the things you're going to need to do in the culinary school without knowing some of this. So it's good to have a little refresher, especially if you've been away from the school for a minute. Definitely not a bad thing. Does anyone have any questions? I mean, I'm finishing really early, like really early. But that's pretty much all I had. I just had a bunch of examples walking you through it all. Everyone seems really good in the chat.
Yeah,
Awesome.
We have one question from Christina asking if they can kind of look at this again. So that could be maybe relative to just going through a couple more questions. I think they may have come in a little bit late. Some of us have come in a little bit late. So a couple more examples would be great. And then also maybe we can show where the archives are and stuff like that.
Genius. I love that.
Yeah.
All right. Let me share my screen again. I'm going to jump into the dashboard here. And I'm already in our tutor page, so I'm throwing everyone off. So let me just kind of get into a class real quick. What class that is, it does not matter, because all of them look the same for the most part, at least the layout. So when you're on your class page, regardless of which class you are in, you will be here and you will see the Start Here section right at the top. That is where you will find us. Ooh, I do not like this scroll thing on the dashboard. I have to tell you all, it is the tiniest thing to try to grab. Anyway, that's a whole different tangent. So we are in this online tutoring. If you click in here, that gets you to our page. If you go here, you can book a one-on-one session with us, either for more in-depth help with math, whether it be writing, tech issues, Google Drive, submitting your assignment, costing. What else do I do? I don't know, nutrition. What else am I forgetting? Writing. Anyway, anything you can think of that you just need some extra help, we are here. You can book a session right here. It is in your time zone, and you can basically pick who is working with what based on what you need. Our workshops, you are in which one? Math Foundations on Sunday night. but they are all here. This is our schedule. This does change a little bit every term, but we always have them going on. And here are the Zoom links to join each of them and at what time and day they are. So Math Foundations, again, that's where you're at. Baker's Math, I know a few of you had questions there. This is where you can see Chef Kennedy, some Baker's Math help. If you're in costing, we have 3 different costing ones. And we record them all, we upload them all in the archive, so you can find them here. So if you need help with rounding, that's in last week's Math Foundations. Extra resources, you can get to the Quizlets, you can get to a Kahoots game. These are great extra just resources for you guys. But I am going to kind of jump back into these slides and just do some more examples. Feel free, if you've already kind of gotten enough, you're good to jump off. If you want to practice again, stick around because we can just kind of run through a few more. So what is 2/10 as a decimal? Again, feel free to throw it in the chat, say your answer out loud. If you don't know how everyone is getting there, then ask, because we can kind of just walk you through it better. So you take that 2 and you would divide it by your 10, which gets you hopefully 0.2.
And thank you so much, Jessica. I just want to say for showing your calculator and being able to kind of show the steps of the math to get there. That's like super helpful. People are enjoying that in the chat.
Awesome. Yeah, I know. And it does help, not just today, right now, but as you're doing things math-wise throughout the program, doing them in your calculator as well, just as the instructor's doing it, really helps with like the muscle memory of knowing like, oh, this is when we divide and this is when we multiply. So just knowing that going forward will really help you out. Eric, I see your hand is raised. What's up?
How do we pull up our calculator on the computer?
So you should have a search bar, regardless of which one. Are you on a laptop or Chrome?
Chrome, Acer.
Okay. Is there a search bar at the bottom?
Nope.
Where you can click your like start menu to pull up like all your apps or all your like.
Oh, yeah.
You can go in there and you should be able to find calculator.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. And everyone, I'm pretty sure at this point, everyone's cell phone has one too.
I went and bought one because I couldn't stand going back and forth, printing my code in, taking the code out. So I just went and bought one.
I love just my like normal, easy calculator. Use it for everything. Just basic math all day long. But all right, back to this. Good question though, because I'm sure some of you were asking or wondering. Both, maybe. Anyway, we have 3/5. What is that as a decimal? Again, you take that 3 and you would divide it by that 5 and we get 0.6. What is 7/9 as a decimal rounded to the nearest hundredth? So you would again put that 7/9, so 7 divided by 9 in your calculator. And we get 0.77777777778. Makes you out of breath. And then you'd round to the nearest hundredth. So just touching base on those rounding principles again. The hundredth is your second place, the 7 here. You look to the digit to the right to determine what we do to them. Since it's 5 and above, it's forced to change who it is. So that means this guy has to go to an 8. So it would be 0.78 would be your answer rounded to the nearest decimal. How about what is 9/16 as a decimal? Again, rounded to the nearest 10th. Tricky, I know.
0.6.
It is 0.6. Now, what would this be rounded to the nearest hundredth?
0.56.
0.567?
It'd be 0.56.
0.56.
Yep, so your hundredth place is the second one. And actually, I am going to flip to that just so everyone, if you joined late, because this is just a great refresher. Just to know your placement of your numbers is huge. So you can't round to the nearest hundredth if you don't know which one's the hundredth, which to kind of walk you through, the ones to the left of the decimal are whole numbers. I'm pretty sure most of you got that part down. So we got our hundreds, our tens, our ones. Now after this decimal to the right of it, that's when you get into partial numbers, and that's where it gets a little bit more, that's where people count it most. So when you look at this and you see this 4, just think of this 4 as 4 divided by 10, basically. Going back to that fraction principle, it is 4/10. It is 4 of a whole number. So this is our 10th spot because it is 4/10. Again, kind of back to what we were just learning. If you put 4 divided by 10 in, you get 0.4. So that's one way to kind of remember and know. Your next spot over would be your hundredths. So looking at the number in front of us, we would have 45 hundredths. So 45 out of 100 things, or a lot of the times money, because that's where we cost. You never have more than that with when you're talking costing, because you don't have less than a penny. That is our lowest denomination. So anytime you're talking dollars and cents, just know you're always running to that nearest hundredth, or 45 hundredths. That's how you would say it. So again, if you take, well, I guess you're never going to do that because that's weird, but you could do 45 divided by 100. I guess just to go with that fraction principle, and you get 0.45. Same one next to it is your thousandths, because we have 456 out of 1,000. I don't know why you're ever going to round to your nearest thousands. I don't think many questions in this program have that, but it's really good to know where that one is in case you do. But anyway, touching base on that.
You know what's funny too? The thousands section, I do use it though all the time when I'm food costing for pastry items because it's so small. Like price.
I was gonna say with grams and stuff.
Yeah, like a price per gram is always so tiny. So
I could see that.
Every now and then we do use it.
It is there. See, that's great. I don't know if you're gonna have questions on your tests about it, but in the real world, you might use it.
Can we go back to that screen right quick?
Yeah, wherever I was, here we are. Oh, I drew on it. When did that happen? How do I undo that? I was gonna say, if you want to take a picture of this, this is a great thing to just have. Oops. If I can go back to it, I just kind of jumped off of it after I told you to look at it. That's a great idea. Anyway, so this is just, yeah, great to know. And actually, Erica, since I know you said you joined late, this is another great screen. This basically explains everything we did today. This entire slide has the bulk of that information of how to get your fraction to a decimal and how to get that decimal to a percent. So if you want to take a quick picture of this or write it down.
I took 2. Thank you, Chef. Appreciate it.
Yeah, this one's a great one just to have back to go to reference for sure. Because this is something that is just easy to forget. I know the more you do these things, the more you're going to just know. Like Kenna's in a bake shop every day. She just knows a quarter of something's 0.25. She doesn't have to do the math. But at some point you'll get there. If you're not there, don't worry about it. That just comes with practice.
Well, going to be all of y'all best friends in tutoring.
That works for me. All right, let's try some more examples because we still have some time here. What is 9/16 as a decimal? Oh, we already did this. We're going to skip that. We already did that one a few times. What is 3/8 as a decimal? So you take that 3 divided by your 8, and we get 0.375. So if this said, what is this rounded to the nearest 10th? What would your answer be instead? Rounded to the nearest 10th. Did you say 0.4? See some 0.4s in the chat. Yeah, if you're rounding to the nearest 10th, because that 7 is what I'm calling a mean bossy number. It makes him change who he is. So he's a 4 now. So it'd be 0.4. If you don't round though, it's just 0.375. I'm just kind of throwing in questions with questions. More questions. What is 0.4 as a percentage? So you take that 0.4 and you can move that decimal 2 spots over, or you can multiply it by 100. So Erica, I see your face looking at me confused. You put that 0.4 in your calculator and you multiply that by 100, and that gives you your percentage. Or you can take that 0.4 and move, I'm gonna put the 0 in there, move this 0.2 spots over, and that gets you 40%. Same thing, whichever principle makes more sense to you, just do that one. I tend to always multiply by 100. I don't know. I guess it's probably just the analytical math person in me that I'm like, calculator, let's do it. Then just being like, oh, well, I can, yeah, it's totally that, because I'm not a drawer, so I don't want to draw. Just answered my own question of how my brain works.
0.2 percentage as a percentage.
So this same thing, you can move it 2 spots over, or multiply that 0.22 by, whoa, that button's fun, 0.22 times 100, and that gets us 22%. How about this one? What is 0.39 as a percentage?
So 0.39 times 100 equals 39.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Nice job. You're doing great. You're math whiz today. You are. You're doing great. What is 0.525 as a percentage? So again, don't let that extra number throw you off. You just move that decimal 2 spaces over, or you multiply it by 100. 0.525 times 100, and we get 52.5%. What is 1.68 as a percentage? See, this one some of you were already here earlier, so you already know the answer, or at least know how to get the answer, so maybe I won't trick anyone this one. I don't think I got anyone the first round either. You guys are all too smart. In a good way, in a good way. I mean that in a great way. So it would be 168%. So same thing, just that 1 to that left just means it's a whole number, meaning you have over 100% is basically what that means when you see that. But same exact principles apply. What is...
Excuse me, Chef. Do we have to... Okay, so when we're doing this on our test, go down. When we're doing this on our test, oh no, do we have to, oh man, hold on. I disappeared, wait a minute. Okay, I'm sorry. When we're doing this on our test, do we have to put that percentage mark behind it?
Yeah, I believe so. If it asks for a percentage, yes.
Okay, okay, thank you.
And that's, yeah, that kind of goes with that same principle. I'm gonna preach forever. Read the question, make sure you're answering it in the right format. So if it says a percentage, you wouldn't want to just say 168. You'd want to say 168%. Unless, I guess there are instances, the chef might fill in the percentage for you in the equation, then I guess you want it. But most of the time, Chef Kenna, I think you have more experience with it. I think you have to in a lot of them, right?
Yeah, a lot of the time. Now in the knowledge checks, they're typically going to just have, just like different options, but make sure you choose the one that says like 168%. So they might trip you up on that. So just a little bit. So the only other thing to mention though is just remember when you're working with your calculator, there is a percentage sign on your calculator, but that actually is a function and it will change your number. So you probably won't want to push that.
Don't push that.
Don't push that.
Don't push that.
I totally understand. I thought that I was like being meticulous and doing that when I would like use my calculator and push the percent sign, but just don't do it.
Now I'm like staring at my calculator like, All right. But yeah, I mean, same thing. Like if it is asking, what is this in a decimal? Answered in a decimal. What is this in a percent? Answered in a percent. So always make sure, or if it's asking, what is this as a fraction? Answer as a fraction. Always making sure you're in that same exact format that they're wanting you to. This kind of goes along with.
So don't just put the number. Put in, because when this one, I just did the 2 divided by 10 percentage, and it gave me 20 points. So make sure I put my 20 point there, correct?
Yeah, you'd want to put the percentage.
Right.
So 20% versus just saying 20.
So put the 20%.
Right. Yep.
So then how do you put the percent in?
With the little percent, which is a 5 on your keyboard.
It gave me a 4. It changed it from 20 to the 4. So
no, you don't put the percent in your calculator. You don't put the percent on your calculator. You just put it on the end of your number for your answer.
Oh, so as long as we know that it's the percent and it's 20, so we put 20 and put the line near ourselves. Okay, thank you for me to remember.
Yes, exactly. What is 3/5 as a percentage? This is a 2-step one. So you have to take that 3 divided by your 5 equals 0.6, but that's not the answer because this is asking what's a percentage. So you multiply that by 100 and that gets us our 60%. Awesome. Nice job, everyone. What is 7/10 as a percentage, if I can read? So 7, again, divided by 10 equals 0.7, which is our decimal, times 100. Oop, not 1,000. Fat fingers. And we get 70%. So 70% would be our answer. What is 9/16 as a percentage? So again, 2-part. Whoa, I'm skipping on you. Those fat fingers again, they'll get you every time, I'm telling you. 9 divided by 16. And we get 0.5625. We times this by 100. And that gets us 56.25%. Correct, we're back. Oh, all right. What is 4/16 as a percentage? Same thing. Doing that math, 4 divided by 16. And we get 0.25. And we times that by 100. And we get 25%. Nice job, everyone. You guys are getting the hang of this.
Job, Erica.
Yeah, we see some celebrating. That's awesome. What is 1/8 as a decimal? So again, we got that 1 top number divided by that bottom number, and we get 0.125. What percentage is 7/8? So same question, but I asked you backwards just to, I don't know, throw you off, switch it up a bit. So you'd still do that 7 divided by your 8, and then you'd still times it by 100. And we get 87.5%. What decimal is 1/9 rounded to the nearest hundredth? Done this one. 1 divided by 9 gives us all these 1s times 100. Rounded to the nearest 100. Oh, it's decimal. See, I didn't even read my own question. Do you see that? Anyone catch me? I did it wrong myself. I went a step too far. It would just be your 0.11. I was going to answer it in percent. I'm getting tired. Well, that is pretty much it. I mean, that's all I really have for you all today. I'm glad I could kind of go over it again for everyone. Next week, same time, same day, Sunday at 7 p.m. Central Time, we are going to be going over. Can you guys not hear me?
I can hear you well.
Okay, I'm like, or is it just Erica? Anyway, so we're good. But yeah, we're going to be covering volume conversions. So we're going to be doing that conversions, going through some practice of like teaspoons, tablespoons, cups, what else? Pints, quarts, gallons, making sure you know how many cups are in a gallon, how many quarts are in a gallon, how many cups are in a tablespoon. Said that backwards. Tablespoons in a cup. You get the gist. So that's kind of what we'll be covering and going over all next week. But please, if you need any more help with this, reach out to myself. Chef Ken is available. We have other tutors on as well that would be happy to jump on a Zoom call with you, walk you through whatever help you need. But yeah, if there's any questions, I mean, we've got a couple minutes for anyone has anything. Well, thank you all so much for joining me. And I hope to see you all next week again. Again, go back to those archive workshops if you need to. They're great resources. You can watch them at any time, and they will just help you get a better knowledge of whatever you're struggling with, really. We have something on there for you. Thanks all for joining.
Thank you, Chef. Good night, ladies. Good night, everybody.
Yeah, right. Good night, Erica. Night, Vanessa. Thanks for all the right answers.
Bye-bye.
Bye, thanks.
Good night, Chef.